Welcome to Concordia University. It's such a beautiful day. I think we almost asked our Sodexo catering partners if we could just move all of this out onto the bluff. It's a beautiful day. Welcome to campus. We are just delighted to have you here with us today. In a few moments, we're going to have our opening prayer and begin to enjoy our lunch. Just a quick note about the meal service. The salads are at the table for you to enjoy, but in the back of the room, for those who are so inclined, we have a mushroom, I want to get this right, a mushroom brie soup that is there for your enjoyment. So please feel free as we begin to enjoy our lunch to help yourself to the soup at the back of the room. At this time, it's my pleasure to introduce you to Concordia University's president, Reverend Dr. Patrick Ferry, for a word of welcome and our opening prayer. Please welcome him.
Thank you, Gretchen. Thank you all for being here today. It's a joy to have you here. The President's Roundtable has been an event that we've had for several years. We've changed its format fairly regularly. Typically, we do something twice a year. But I'm interested to know how many of you are here for an event like this for the first time for our President's Roundtable. Wow, what a great turnout of new folks. We're delighted to have you here. The goal is always essentially the same, and that is to present, to discuss, to interact, and with emphasis on interaction. So there will be opportunity for us to hear also from you as you reflect on the panel that we have today. And we're grateful for our panelists, and thank you so much for being a part of this experience today. Concordia is a busy place right now. I don't know if you noticed that when you came onto campus or not. There's a lot going on right now. And if you are here and you thought you were coming to the baseball tournament, you're not in the right spot. But there's a pretty good view if you go over here. We're hosting the conference baseball tournament over the next couple of days in Capco Park. There's also a little event called graduation that's scheduled for tomorrow and Saturday. Our graduate students will be graduating tomorrow evening, and then our undergrads on Saturday. And there are lots of families moving students off campus who are finishing their final exams. So there's really a lot to think about. And all of that, though, I think ties in really well with the theme today as we anticipate graduation. We always suggest that our students are going out to fulfill our mission, serving Christ in the church and the world, that we cannot complete our mission until they accomplish it, right? They're the ones who we've prepared in mind, body, and spirit for the things that they'll encounter. Are they ready? Well, that's part of what we're going to look at today and think about out loud with you. But before we do that, we want to feed you, and we'll ask God's blessing upon our meal. So let's pray. Gracious God, our Father, we thank you for this day of grace, and this day in which you provide your blessings to us, too many for us to count. But we thank you for them. We thank you for the gathering here today, and we pray that you'd bless our time together, that it would be a fruitful interaction, a helpful one for the university and its mission, but also one that gives us pause to think about the ways in which we can have an impact in our community and in our world. We thank you for the food that we're about to share, and for those who've prepared it for us. We give you thanks for that partnership and for the ways in which you provide for us. We're truly grateful. We ask, Lord, that you'd help us also to have generous hearts, mindful that there are others who are needy, and that we can be your hands, your feet, your instruments in caring for others. We pray your blessing upon our panelists, upon our dialogue, all that we do. And in particular this day, we pray for our students who are finishing their exams, and especially those who are graduating. All this we ask in Jesus' name. Amen. So again, help yourself to soup if you'd like it in the back. There are other soft drinks back there too, and we'll get started with our program in just a little bit.
So as we continue to enjoy our lunch, we're going to invite our panelists to the stage as they come forward. Now is a great moment to take a second, and it's important that we do so, to thank the members of the various university teams and staffs who helped make today possible, especially our good friends from Sodexo who catered the event and put together. I asked for a bright spring, summer kind of theme going on. I think they definitely did that. So please, let's thank our servers and those who took care of us this afternoon. Panelists, come on up. And we'll have our panelists come forward and get ready to begin. January 2015 study from the American Association of Colleges and Universities found a gap, a very big gap, between how graduating college students and prospective employers viewed their overall preparedness for the workplace. And the results are a rather eye-opening read and basically boil down to the fact that college students think they are very well prepared with both the hard skills and the soft skills and the qualities needed for their career, while employers are a little bit more, shall we say, dubious about that. This is a quote from the study. When it comes to the types of skills and knowledge that employers feel are most important to workplace success, large majorities of employers do not feel that recent college grads are well prepared. This is particularly the case for applying knowledge and skills in real-world settings, critical thinking skills, and written and oral communication skills, areas in which fewer than 3 in 10 employers, and this was a national study, 3 in 10, fewer than 3 in 10, think that recent grads are well prepared. Yet even in the areas of ethical decision-making and working with others in teams, many employers did not give graduates high marks. So this study, and others like it, there are many, many others like it, raise important questions for colleges and universities, but particularly for those operating like we do at Concordia in a strong liberal arts tradition, where hard skills and soft skills, and in our case specifically a faith-based institution, as a faith-based institution, ethics and values are taught pretty robustly throughout our curriculum. So what do high-quality employers expect from grads? With us today, we have a power panel of Milwaukee leaders representative of a cross-section of industries and organizations who we're going to grill a little bit as we dig more deeply into this topic. So we're very delighted to welcome DeMond Means of the Mequon Thiensville School District, the District Superintendent of Schools, Emily Phillips, who is a financial advisor with Robert W. Baird & Co., Randol Spaulding, founder and CEO of Spaulding Clinical Pharmacology and Spaulding Properties, and Karen Sommer, who's the Director of Global Public Affairs for Johnson Controls. Their bios are on the back of the cards at your table. You can read more about our panelists. Thank you for leading us in the conversation today. We're gonna dive right in. And as we said, this is meant to be, we were talking about it at our table, very much a conversation among the 4 of you, and then we'll be inviting the rest of the room to get involved in the dialogue as well. So Karen, you're gonna get the first question here today. When you hear that phrase, we need graduates who are 21st century career ready, what does this phrase mean in the context of your unique industry or organization? Karen, why don't you lead us off?
I know we're gonna get, can you guys hear me okay? A little better? I think we're gonna dive a little bit deeper into some of the specific characteristics, but I think, very specifically from a Johnson Controls perspective, being an international company, graduates coming in have a global awareness that the world is a very big place. Being able to be mindful of different cultures and the ways to interact with others that are not the same as them, and an appreciation for diversity and collaboration and being able to work together. I think, at its core, coming in is pretty important from our perspective.
Others.
Well, I agree with what Karen just said. In addition to that, being able to filter the noise. There are so many distractions in today's world, and when you are in college and you have a good advisor and you manage to get out in 4 years, you're able to manage your time and you have that structure. And one thing we've noticed at Baird when we hire college graduates is making sure we reinforce those time management skills and understanding how to filter the noise and focus on what's really important. And a lot of times, companies they think that that's too elementary, and you don't need to have that because these are adults. But let's face it, I don't know if you remember when you came out of college, as you gain wisdom, it changes, and things that are innate to you as an adult or more mature, seasoned professional aren't there for graduates.
I'll preface my notes for the entire discussion by saying I'm going to acknowledge my two colleagues here from my company who head our HR department and deal with the graduates every day. And much of what I'm going to share with you actually comes from their experience. And I think on the hard skills side, what we've seen is perhaps a need for greater skills around planning, collaborating, problem solving, because whereas maybe prior generations had to figure things out more for themselves, let's face it, the ability to just go here and solve all the problems changes the dynamics. The way Amy described it is, if we wanted to get the information that we get from here, we would have to get a ride to a library. And we had to plan that with a parent to say, when are you gonna be there? When can I get back? We had to, I didn't get a ride back, then you'd have to figure out how to get home, and you just expand that out. It's great things here, but I think what we critically look for in graduates is that problem-solving skill, more than, this is a great tool, but it's more than this. It's being able to think on your feet and solve complex problems. You've got data, but you still have to think critically, get to the root of the problem. Ask yourself, really, what problem am I trying to solve continuously? And that's what I think we need and what we look for in our graduates.
I think from a K-12 perspective, we try to develop young people who are problem solvers, who are interested in inquiry. In other words, you can go deeper and find the response or the answer to something, some type of problem, but then how do you apply it? I think you're going to hear some key words from all of us. I think collaboration is another component that if a young person is unable to collaborate appropriately with a team or a group of people, they'll never be able to prosper. But I think there's a component here that we can't ignore, and some people may call it hard skills, or I think it's both. I think it's hard and soft skills, and it's the ability to write in a way where you can express yourself. When you live in an era where 140 characters can express who you are, and you don't have to use proper punctuation to deliver that message, when you're in a workspace, the ability to write in a way where you can express yourself in a very succinct way is a skill that's not only a hard skill, but it's also a soft skill, because sometimes what I've seen with young people is when you teach the technical writing, they view it in two different worlds. And so they write very technically, and it doesn't express their voice and who they are. And so in a lot of times we talk to young people, and their technical writing doesn't express who they are as a person at all. So I think it's that writing component that we can't ignore as well.
So that actually segues really well into our second question, which, Demond, you're going to be the lead on this one. Graduates, many articles will tell you that graduates ready for 21st century success are educated in 21st century schools. Those are hubs where skills and attitudes and values such as critical thinking and problem solving, the things we've already said here, collaboration across networks, leading by influence, agility, adaptability, curiosity, and imagination, where those skills and values are prized. From that list, or maybe there's more on the list, pick one or two that are most critical in your view for 21st century success, and why that pick. And Demond, as a superintendent of schools for the Mequon Thiensville School District, we'll let you take the lead.
Sure. I think it's one of those characteristics. All of those are good, but I think Karen said something at the beginning that kicked off our panel. The ability to embrace and understand diversity of thought and people. We live in a society where people express themselves, and they should express themselves the way that they want to. No longer are we bound by the rules of here's how you have to fit into a certain work culture or an environment. And we're continuously trying to create schools that accepts that type of world. And so we have young people who want to be diverse and open And we have to create work environments where they are allowed to be that type of individual, to be that type of leader. Yes, all of those different characteristics that you named, yes, we're creating workspaces in our schools that, desks aren't in a row anymore and you have to sit there and be quiet. We're creating classroom environments where we want students to work together in teams and to talk with one another and to challenge their instructor. But I think the key is the ability to respect diversity of thought and diversity of personalities and just individuals in general.
And I'll just tie on, I think, a little bit to what you're saying is, this appreciation for it. We're coming with the millennials in this kind of the sense of entitlement, right? we're kind of embracing that now with the grads coming in, and this thinking that, a lot of what we're seeing is, you'll have some of these graduates coming in and they're confident and they're strong, and, they'll say they'll work together as a team, but at the end of the day, it's their ideas, and I have the right answer, and we're gonna go down this way. And kind of breaking down that sense of entitlement and having that true appreciation for what that diverse team and the colleagues and what you can bring to the table.
Well, and you think about the concept of entitlement. Randy mentioned it earlier, the phone. I mean, a long time ago when we took vacations, we'd have to pull out a map. We'd have to go to the phone book and find a place to stay or other things, and we'd have to create. I mean, a long time ago, we were all project managers essentially for our lives, right? And we were responsible. And children today grow up. I mean, I had a client's daughter said, really, leaving voicemail is fairly rude these days. Like, I have to check it, and then I have to call you back, and it's just kind of a big process. And I'm like, what? I'm like, that's crazy. But she said, everything she gets in her life of value is all in an application, and everything she needs is delivered to her. When she goes on vacation, she plugs in a budget, she plugs in a location, and everything is fed to her, and that's it. There's no thinking, there's no creating. So this problem solving and skill set, I mean, that seems crazy to everyone in the audience, but that's like the next generation's reality. So, I mean, I remember a class where I had the homework was a one-page paper, and I was like, this is gonna be awesome. And then I had to write a one-page paper, and I was like, this is terrible. I had to do what you said. Like, I had to be very succinct and data-driven. Teaching that to children who have 140 characters, they aren't taught some of those soft skills and really critical thinking. Why am I doing it? Taking a moment. This is bigger than me. It's not necessarily my idea. What are we all looking to accomplish?
Yeah, and I would certainly put at the top of my list of what you named off, the critical thinking and problem solving that we've described, but right tied with it, there is no I in team, but there is I in entitlement and attitude, and we face a lot of this, a sense of entitlement. Someone said this before, I get a prize because I showed up for work on time. And, we're not in the business of giving people prizes for showing up. We have to go deeper than that. And our team spends many, many unproductive hours trying to rationalize and work through that attitude towards, no, you're not here to show up. You're here because you have a responsibility to deliver certain things, and it really takes a while to get there. And if you think about it from a business standpoint, that's a lot of wasted dollars. That's a very, you have to make that kind of investment to get to that basic level. So back to what comes out of the schools, if there can be more of an emphasis on that when you show up, no one's going to give you a bonus, a raise, a seven-figure salary for just showing up. You have to be focused on delivering.
So that's, if I may.
Yes,
I think
please.
that's interesting because we've created environments in our schools where we've encouraged teachers to be engaging. And so what we've told our teachers, if you're not engaging, if you don't create an engaging environment, don't expect students to engage you. And so if you create an environment where as I scanned the room, I'm sure you were in the same era as I was in school. You went to a classroom, you sat in a row of desks, the teachers told you, this is what you're going to do, this is how you're going to do it, now give it back to me. We've said if you create that type of environment in your classrooms, don't expect anything from this generation of students. What I would encourage employers to think in the same way. If you create a workspace where here's what we expect, now produce it, this generation of students will not produce it for you because they've gone through 13, 14 years of education where teachers have engaged them. And so the era of the lawyers playing ping pong while they're debating trademark law is here, is now. The workspace where it's not about your desk and having a conference room is here. These young people they're the most intelligent, prepared group of Americans we've ever seen. However, from a diversity standpoint, we have to flex. And what I mean by flexing is that we have to, so in our school district, we went to referendum last year. And we went to referendum in part to create new learning environments where kids aren't sitting in desks anymore, where they can actually write on walls and problem solve in different ways. I think that diversity that Karen and I spoke to earlier is a two-way street. Not only is it for our kids to be diverse to one another and see the world, but as we continue to be mentors for them, create a space where they are as creative as ever. And I think that's really critical.
So clearly Concordia University is a Lutheran Christian higher education community, and so we place a very high premium on excellence and trust and integrity. We would say that ethics are neither a luxury nor an option in today's successful enterprises. So talk to us, and Randy, this one's going to come to you first. Talk to us about the priority that your organization places on ethics, and what are your expectations for new graduates as they join your organization during a time of ethical moral shift in the culture?
Sure. To me, it's the focal point. It's the center. It's what we talk about right the first day they come in. And I base our ethical decision-making on our values as a company. And we state those very clearly. We have 4 key values we discuss over and over, especially with the newer employees. 2 of them I would consider harder skills, if you will, and 2 softer skills. And the way I would characterize it is the 2 hard skills, heroic ambitions and ingenious solutions, so people can think on their feet and think heroically, be dreamers. I think this group coming out in this generation is far better equipped in those areas than anything I've ever seen. I'm almost envious that I wish I could have been learning in a time like today. So I think they get high marks. I think our other 2, which I'll call softer skills, which we've already said to some degree, but we have 2 other values, loving care and self-awareness. And I would give, and I'm just speaking generally, right, because everyone's different. But I think what we see is this is where the kids are struggling with more, is that self-awareness. To me, what goes with it is a sense of humility, and not humility. In fact, I love C.S. Lewis defines humility as not thinking less of yourself, not holding your head down, but thinking of yourself less. And that is something that I think we have to challenge them when they come in. We have to say, okay, that's great. You have this great idea. Now you've got to work with that person and that person and that person, and they have great ideas too. And the worst thing we can do is have an environment where I'm coming in and I'm just not listening, and I'm just saying my way or the highway. And that comes with self-awareness then, saying I'm good at some things, but I'm surrounded by other people that are really good too. and they have good input, and they have good ideas and good experience and good thoughts. And we have to allow that to happen. And that's, when you talk about ethics in our company, that's high up there. And then the loving care really is what it is. It's, you know, play nice in the sandbox. It's what we all learn in kindergarten, right? Just be nice to one another. Don't try to steamroll someone because you don't like them or you don't like their idea or you don't like what they or whatever it is. You know, we're all in this together. We're all part of a team to try to win together. And what we've seen is when that environment happens, when we create an environment where people are dreaming and thinking big and thinking on their feet, smart, but also thinking of each other and not just of myself, that's very powerful. And I think that's a way we can really tap into this energy that's coming out, brute force energy that's coming out to move a business ahead.
May I jump in?
Please.
So the uniqueness to this generation of students I have found is that they view the world as flat. And so they don't see any need to adhere to hierarchy. Right? I mean, so young people, there are some young people who don't aspire to be a social worker. They're saying to themselves, I can start my own nonprofit. I'll start my own nonprofit. I don't have to go work for someone. I'll do it myself. Keep in mind, this is a generation of young people. Some of them may have never stepped on anyone's campus ever, from kindergarten through their collegiate career. They could have gone to school online, K-12, and then, as I'm speaking to a group of higher ed folks, they could have gone to school higher ed online as well. They have no loyalty to any organization. And so what I have found, especially as we start getting younger teachers, is that we have to create buy-in for them to say, we want you to be part of our team. And you bring uniqueness to it, but we also have to create a playground for them to play. Because if we don't create enough space for them to play in their own playground, they literally can take their amazing intellect and energy and insight and go and create their own. And we need them. So it's really interesting in terms of that component of things. In terms of ethics, I think these young people are very ethical, and they believe in society, but it's a very narrow portion of it. It's their Twitter followers. It's their friends on Facebook. And I'm showing my age by talking about Facebook. It's their friends on Instagram, right?
That's Snapchat.
Or Snapchat. I mean,
What's that?
The point is, what they define as their ethics is within their own culture. And you need to know that we have now expanded significantly. The last thing I would say is we have to look at our world the way that we look at television now. I'm a child of the 80s, and so I remember there were only 3 major networks, and that's where you picked up your television shows when I was a child. You look at television today, there are hundreds of channels, and that's what our society is now. People are picking their own channel, and they're staying within their own lane or their own channel. What we have to do is to respect and at least get a knowledge base on what that channel or what that world, that culture is, and respect the ethics in which they have established.
Yeah, and I'd probably just like to build on to that, because I think, especially from the business world, ethics and compliance, and that is just so core. And I think, to the man said it, that the kids that are coming in, they have that. That's kind of instilled in them. And I think for us, it's all about that employee engagement. How do we create an environment where they're in and they're bought in, they not only enjoy what they do, but we give them avenues to explore all of those other things that are personal to them. I'll talk, part of my role is around our philanthropy and our communities, and how do we support our employees and these graduates that are coming in with their personal passions. They're out there doing good. I think that's one of the really great things that have evolved with this service component of all of these institutions requiring of their graduates, that these kids are out there, they're giving back, they're seeing things hopefully outside of what's going on maybe here in Mequon. There's a broader world. and being able to understand and to see the challenges and to want to do something to the power of the better of the good. And then how do we embrace that and give them an avenue to support that while they do their day job as well.
Great. So we're going to give you each about 30 seconds. Last question before we have our tables do some thinking at their table groups. It's your chance to tell Concordia what we should be doing. You can go over 30 seconds. We won't kick you off the panel. But what is the absolute, in your view, can't be missed element that you believe this institution simply must provide its students to enable them not just to achieve career goals, but to truly meet Concordia's mission, which is to develop students for lives of leadership and meaningful impact in their careers? So what is our must not be missed that we should be doing as we lead our students and teach our students?
So I've avoided the buzzword, but I'll give you the buzzword in education right now. And Concordia needs to continue to do this. I think they are doing an amazing job right now. But the buzzword is personalize the learning experience for the student. Because what a quality graduate is looking for is a workplace where they can personalize their expertise when they get into the professional field. So if Concordia can continue, and I emphasize continue because I know the university is doing it now, continue to create a space where when you're trying to bring young people on the campus, and then when you profile young people who graduate, create that personalization where they can create their own path to their vision of the future, their vision of the 21st century.
Adding to the personalization standpoint, you get kids today excited about something and give them some rules of engagement, get out of their way. Because they will take it to a level that you're like, wow. Don't tell them that you're expecting that necessarily, but you teach, if you provide an environment where you get to know them and get to understand what motivates them and can explain the why it's important, and it's not about them specifically, right? It's about the greater purpose, they will take off. And there are a lot of the other soft skills, hard skills, things that you have to teach them, but the children of today, the youth of today, the graduates of today are so intent on experience and impact. If you take the Tom's Shoes concept to the business level, we're going to see incredible things.
I would say as a faith-based institution, Concordia has a wonderful opportunity and role. Dr. Ferry talked about mind, body, and spirit, to get to that spirit side and really foster that in graduates. That it's about an awareness of the world around, and that self-awareness I was speaking of earlier, that not false humility but real humility, that it's all for the greater glory of God. When I'm focused there, as opposed to me or you or someone else, that's when I can do great things. And I think by exposing students to that greater why than just myself, Concordia is uniquely positioned to really provide that third leg of the triad for students, the spirit.
I think it's just really a culmination of everything that we've said here, but allowing the students to find what excites them, to find their passion, to learn all of these hard skills that we talked about, but then to apply that to a real world problem, to find a solution to something that is real, tangible. I go back, I think I went through simulations. I spent a class where I developed my own business. Was I passionate about it? No, but that was what I was required to do. But I think if you can harness all of this together and to have them solve something that's real, something that can be moved forward, I think it just gives them a platform to really dive from.
We're going to turn some of this over to all of you now. As we often say, there's no such thing as a free lunch, so you're going to have to do a little bit of work for us before you're allowed to leave, because our goal with the Roundtable is to give you an opportunity to speak into these issues that matter to the university. So we're going to give you a simple question at your table, and there's university leadership at every table, so please, university leaders, keep the conversation going. Really, we're going to give you about 5 minutes at your table to just simply react to what you've heard and to consider as a table group, really, what is the primary takeaway? We've heard a lot in the last 25, 30 minutes. What are the primary takeaways or sets of takeaways that your table believes are truly most critical for Concordia and for its leaders to keep in mind as it charts the future of the institution? So you've heard a lot said. What are the primary takeaways? So sort of your chance to do the 30-second that you just heard the speakers do. And after a bit of time, we'll come back together and President Ferry will interact with your tables. And some of you will be very brave and stand up and tell us what your tables said. And we'll get a chance to hear from you. But first, let's thank our panel for their time with us today and their investment in this topic. So enjoy your dessert. We'll be back in about 5 minutes.
I'd like to express my appreciation to the panel for an excellent discussion. Very, very stimulating, very thought-provoking. And I know it engendered conversation at your tables, too, and looking forward to hearing something from you as well. You know, on Saturday, we'll send the class of 2016 on their way. We're already waiting for August when the class of, imagine this, 2020 will be arriving on campus, you know. When our freshmen arrived on campus this last fall, this year's freshman class, we were out here at Capco Park and had kind of a sending ceremony. It was the idea is that this would be the time that sons and daughters would say goodbye to parents, and they would go out in the outfield out there where we had a little reception set up, and that was it. Parents were supposed to leave at that point, right? Didn't happen that way necessarily. But as I addressed that larger group, I couldn't help but reflect on the fact that this is my 25th year at Concordia. So I came as a first-year teacher, and I had Demond Means in my history class. You know, can you imagine? So we're doing all right here, right? We're doing okay. And Karen, you're a graduate of our MBA program, so we're doing some things very well. But it's my 19th year as president at Concordia, just finishing my 19th year. So, but anyways, as I addressed them, I said to them, you know, I realize that means I've been president at Concordia longer than you've been alive. And so I've been waiting for you your entire life to come here. And you know, the opportunity to work with college students kind of keeps you young in some ways, but it can also make you feel very old. There are these gaps, these things that it's very challenging to keep up with them, and you ultimately you can't. So what do we need to know? What do we need to hear? Some of it has already been shared by our panelists. They've given us some food for thought, some excellent food for thought. How about at your tables? What did you hear, or what did this stimulate for you, or did it provoke a question or a comment or an insight? We'd like for about 10 minutes or so just to hear, to listen. And by the way, I will be quiet. By the way, many of our academic leaders are here. Our senior academic leaders, our deans are here. We're all listening. And so this would be a great opportunity for us to hear from you. So please, someone take the lead. In the back.
Hello. We talked a little bit about, a lot of higher educations do a great job providing education, but they don't really provide people the experience to really apply that education. So I'll give you an example. I'm a two-time Concordia graduate and liked it here and had a great experience. And my first degree was in athletic training sports medicine. I had to put 2,000 hours in the training room before I could become a trainer. And I could go anywhere and I would be a good athletic trainer. People are graduating now with a degree and they have no experience applying that knowledge. So they have to come to a business, and now you have to spend, as a business owner, which I am now, I have to spend 2,000 hours training that person how to do the job that they needed to know. And so we kind of talked a lot about that, is how do you get students to be more able to apply that knowledge? And we kind of joked a little bit. They know how to do trigonometry, but they don't know how to balance their checkbook. So it's the real life skills that they have to be kind of pushed down, that they can actually do those types of things. And we feel that a lot of times when they're coming to the employer, they don't know, again, how to do those jobs because they're not trained. And now when they get there, they make mistakes, they end up getting fired. When you were in an internship, it was encouraged to make those mistakes, so that's how you learned. And so, going back to making sure that in every school that they're really being taught how to use that information, we thought was really important. The other thing that's just, for me, kind of personal is that when I was going through school, I was responsible for my grades. I was responsible for my education. Now it seems like everybody except the student is responsible for their success, right? It's the parents' fault. It's the educator's fault. It's, if I got a bad grade, I was getting grounded, I was getting in trouble. Now the parents are coming to the teacher wondering, why is it that my son is not, or daughter is not doing well? And I think we have to push, as in education, that responsibility back to the actual student, and that helps them get that problem-solving skills. That helps them get that communication skills. It helps them do that. Even at work now, parents are calling in for their kids because they're sick. I mean, it's crazy, some of those things, but that's because it's not the kid's fault anymore. It's always the parents or the employer or somebody else's. So I think you have to put the shift back onto the students, and we have to make sure that we're actually making sure that they know how to do what it is that we're actually teaching them.
Great. Thanks, Jen. It's nice to see you. Thanks for coming today. Other reactions, thoughts, comments? What'd you talk about at your table? I know you were talking. Dwayne?
I'm going to react to the statement that was said. I'm a high school principal. We need to teach parents how to be parents and not friends. And I'm appalled that they're still calling the colleges to find out what's going on with their grades, because that's what we're trying to wean them from at our place, to teach them responsibility, accountability, and consequences. And the ethic thing really hits home with me, because I don't know if they know what is right and wrong anymore. This will be my third school that I've had to put a cheating policy in, and I'm in a Christian school, because I don't think they know what's right or wrong. And when that's being reinforced at home, that's difficult too. And so, and I would agree too. I always tell my teachers, you don't know nothing. You've got the book knowledge, but the experiential situations, and I must have slept through some of my administrative classes because they didn't teach me how to deal with transgender, and they didn't teach me how to deal with intruders into your building, and they didn't teach me how to do that. So some of it is just your own experiences and learning from those experiences. And the last thing too is we really talk about, and that's what concerns me about this generation, is where are they in their relationships and to be able to communicate. My next career, I'm in my 40th year of education, I'm going to be in thumb replacement, because that's how they communicate, is with their thumbs. And they do it very well. And they can do it when you're not even looking. And but that's to be, can I just have a conversation with them? So that's my reaction.
Yeah, entry level means something different now, doesn't it, than it did once. Yep, very good. David? Oh, we'll go Scott and then David.
Well, I'm not an educator. There are a lot of you here, and what I found interesting is that the real life experiences that we talked about at our table, the first one is you look a person in the eye. You make contact with a person. Teach them how to do that. Teach the students how to shake a hand, how to say good morning, how to say thank you. The basics are what are really needed in so many levels. I told our table that we don't allow cell phones at work. I mean, you can have it in your pocket, but it has to be turned off. And the only time you can use it is if you have to call mom or dad for a ride because you're not old enough to drive a car. And if I see you with a cell phone, you're warned once, otherwise we take it. We can get it at the end of the night. As far as Concordia, continue to do the job of teaching people the real life skill sets, like we're working with Mr. Sens, Dr. Sens, and hopefully putting program with the hospitality and some of the food service people around here. But if you ever see HR people, someone who has food service experience, they worked in a restaurant, they worked in a hotel, they worked fast food, put them towards the top of the list. And then if you see that a person has also been in their college days, they've gone 3 or 4 months to Europe, to Asia, and somewhere where they've had to be self-sufficient, they had to make their own decisions. I don't have any money and I'm really, really hungry. What do I do now? If you have a person that is bringing you those skills, put them to the top of the list. Find out how competitive that person is. Were they on a ski team, snow team, football player, varsity, whatever. How competitive are they? Because it's frickin' competitive out there. continue to grow that competition. Because if I got the job and you want the job, beat me.
Thank you, Scott. Very good. All right, Dave, you got to follow that one, Dave. You can handle it, Dave. You can handle
I had practice time.
it.
Trying to relate the question that you asked to the students of today, and they're being so different, it occurs to some of us that the teachers have been taught in an era that didn't reflect that difference. So one consideration is that the teaching methods have to change for the new students, because we don't expect the new students to change for what we are.
Yeah, Damon was following up a little bit at our table about that too, just how little in some ways K-12 has changed compared to perhaps other industries, and that's a dynamic that we've got to face. Yeah.
So I'm Lynn Steffes. I didn't go here, but I guest lecture here. I'm PT. I work with a lot of businesses across the country and have clients in about 40 states. And I really believe there's a couple things. One is that we have to admit a more diverse student body in the first place. And I loved what this gentleman said about looking at how you value skills. PT is what I know, but if you admit all biology majors with a 4.0, then they don't learn to work with a diverse group of people and value this person who has good marketing skills or this person who has advocacy skills. So look at your admission criteria and value other things. Instead of just looking for your GPAs, and this isn't, I'm not necessarily pointing just at Concordia, but a lot of universities require that someone works, value work. Because being an employee and working for someone, when I used to interview people, I always said, I don't care what your GPA, I mean, I care a little, but I care what your GPA is. I don't want to lie, because religious people around me. But so, you know, I care, but I want to know that you held a job. I want to know you held a job, and I don't care if you worked at Burger King or whatever. I want to know you worked for someone else who expected you to show up on time, to be nice to the people around you and learn your job. And I feel like the universities, the criteria for admission drive students grades, extracurriculars, which I know can be great as well, and, you know, volunteer. I want to know this person had a job. And I think if you, and give them a chance to work, because I think that those are skills that our millennials do very well with. They're brilliant. I have raised a couple of them, so I love them. But honestly, I just think those are things that are really important.
That's interesting. Picking up on your comment, a couple of others. Some of the things you say, it's sort of like common sense, you know, stuff you'd sort of expect them to have upon arrival. You can't expect that. You can't expect it. Diane?
Like Chaz, I am an alumna of the school, double alumna. One thing you got to remember about Concordia, we have great traditional age alum, but we have great second career alum. I am a product of the adult education and master's program here at Concordia, and I'm very proud of that. Don't forget to go to career services for those types of students. The other thing that I want to lift up, we talked about checkbooks. And the kids, you know, we're all hearing about college debt. College debt is not Concordia's fault. Remember when, those of us that are my age and older, we used to have business math in high school before they got to college. They learned how to run their own checkbook, but they knew business math, so that when they became business owners, they would have a concept of education. In case you didn't know, too, Dr. Michael Uden started a class for our church work students where they talk about personal finance. And I think each school should have that kind of course. Dr. Uden's working on that, so that when they get in their profession, their vocation, they learn how to take care of their personal finances, but maybe they're being that project lead where they have to think about a budget, or they're in a church and have to run a budget for a congregation or some type of ministry. So financials are really important for every type of degree.
Thank you, Diana. Yes, Ryan.
This did not come from conversation here at the table. It comes from answering your question as to what I would recommend you do as a university. Number one, teach your students what it really means to have a value and live a value, a Christian value. Not just have the understanding and be able to define it, but what it means to live it day in and day out in everything they do. The next thing is teach your students that it's not bad to excel and put out at 100+%, to be the absolute best they can. Not just good enough to get a C, a B, or an A. What about putting out at the highest level possible, building that into them, that they see that as the way they'll live their life? Those are the two
Thanks,
things.
Brian. Thank you very much. We have time for one more, yeah? Oh, a reprise here. Go ahead.
Value making mistakes.
Yeah.
Value that.
Right.
Because that will teach you how to either not do it again or grow and learn and become better because of it. But make the mistakes, because I would not be standing here if I didn't make a ton of them.
Well, we're glad you're standing here, and thank you all for being here. This has been great. Like I said, there's several of us sprinkled around. Maybe you didn't have a chance to talk to someone from Concordia, but we'll hang around a bit and chance to chat one-on-one with you. I'd like to remind you that we do this twice a year, this roundtable event, and we'll have another one in the fall. I don't think we know the date yet, or do we? Yes, we do. I didn't, but someone knows. And it's put it on your calendar. I'll get it on mine.